pit blade works.
Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Silver Fang, and today I'm back with another video. This is part 2 of the Gilgamesh versus the world video. So today it's like I'm really excited because they're gonna talk about Enkidu, and we hear that fight with Gil and Enkidu was kind of legendary. Me personally, I never saw it. I know there's like a visual novel somewhere where they do fight all out. And Gil has to use like all of his treasures from the treasury, and that's pretty crazy. But me personally, I haven't seen the fight. But like we hear it mentioned in Fate Grand Order, and apparently it was a crazy ass fight. And so today they're gonna be covering Enkidu. I'm really excited. So let's check out what they have to say about Enkidu. I remember that. In my opinion, I think Enkidu is definitely better than Gilgamesh, and I'll tell you why at the end. So with that being said, let's just jump right into the video.
That out of the way, now we get to finally get to finally get to characters who are at least even with Gil. At least have proven showings that even if they may not be able to beat Gil necessarily, they could definitely stand toe-to-toe with him with, like, no argument. And we'll start with Enkidu, because that's the most obvious.
Play of the gods. Literally made in order to get Gilgamesh back on track. But then
remember,
his first ever bromance occurred.
Like,
hey, it isn't gay if it's
most people talk about Gil and immediately jump to Enuma Elish.
Appearing both in FGO and Strange Fate.
Well, Enkidu also has a type of Enuma Elish.
That's because one of his personal skills, Transfiguration, basically turns him into a point buy character, and he can shift around his parameters as needed.
Yep, which is dope as hell.
Dump his agility or his endurance. He can have like really high strength or luck, or just a more balanced, well-rounded position.
Do you think that's because Enkidu's not even, like, Enkidu says this, he's not even a person. He doesn't have gender or anything like that. Like, we call him he, but he really is just clay. He's a weapon.
He is a construct. He is basically a divine construct in his own right. Only he's got a personality.
Exactly.
The physical appearance he wears is even of a woman. It's of the sacred prostitute who basically civilized him. Civilized him for 7 days.
For 7 days straight.
It's very interesting how Enkidu was quote unquote tamed. Him and Gil basically met in the woods and punched each other for a long time, and then it was like they banged some chicks.
It's actually been noted that Gilgamesh, the Gate of Babylon concept where he like throws things, actually came from his fight with Enkidu, as basically the fighting became so hectic and intense that basically Gil went into his treasury and started throwing whatever he could get his hands on at him.
Enkidu's
they did mention that in that
skill
video.
Is presence detection,
Enkidu,
which is basically just the inverse of presence concealment, so
Enkidu
it's real hard
explained.
to sneak up on him. Interesting skill is consummated shape A, which basically, so long as he's plugged into the magic supply of the land, he has a incredibly powerful regeneration, which you can see in the way this is represented in FGO. It's a huge self-heal.
Actually, I think it's even like the biggest self-heal in the game.
Damn.
It's crazy. It's like 5k, I think.
Yeah, it's huge.
Or even higher. It's enormous. And that's accurate. That's one of the few cases where skills are fairly lore accurate. He can, as long as the planet itself, he can resupply and regenerate.
That's dope.
The gods tell him to die.
Right.
In that case, he was basically, it was basically like being cursed.
Yeah.
So, what are his noble phantasms? Well, in this case,
Enuma
his own version
Elish.
of Enuma Elish. Yes. He's got his own copy of that attack. It's not quite the same, but basically, because Enkidu is a weapon, to a weapon of the gods, and literally harnesses the power of the counterforce to create an incredible blast, which is on par with Gil's Enuma Elish. So this is why, first of all, they are even, because Enkidu can go toe-to-toe with Gil's strongest attack.
That
right,
even
it's even
in
described
attack,
in Strange Fate that every time Gil would use Enema Elish to tear apart the world, Enkidu would just use Enema Elish to bring it back together.
It's literally the equal and opposite effect. And then he's got the other equal and opposite effect, his ability called Age of Babylon, which is not ranked at the moment, but I assume it would be similar to Gate of Babylon, where basically he summons noble phantasms, but he creates copies of unlimited weapons from clay and shoots them.
Yeah, yeah.
His attempt to copy Gate of Babylon, basically. So much that he has noble phantasms, but that his noble phantasm attack is that he can create as many weapons as he needs from clay and shoot them at things.
So, like, the way I can think of that is basically with Gilgamesh, his Gate of Babylon is external, but Enkidu's his Babylon is internal, since he's a being made out of clay.
Creates weapons from the clay of the earth around him, instantly. It's 2 unlimited blade works, and don't worry, we're going to talk about that later. We're talking about canonical times Gil is lost, so yes, we'll
could be
that later.
really powerful or really weak, in depending
where the
on
weapons
where
already exist.
Enkidu
He
is.
does
I'm assuming
create them on the spot. If you hear all that, it's pretty simple. Enkidu is literally opposite number of Gilgamesh. He was supposed to be an equal to Gil to bring him back on track, and then they made friends instead. But in a fight, they have fought to a standstill, and at this point in time, I don't think a situation has arisen until one of them stops, and I'm not even sure that's how it would work. They might have to exhaust each other.
Right. So yeah, this one's pretty tricky, just because, as I pointed out, it's not sometimes it's not about straight winning. It's just a matter of actually, as you pointed out, Omega, can you actually just take on Gil once you get past Aya?
Though I would point out, as I did before, transfiguration does mean make himself, physically stronger than
exactly,
Gil if he wanted,
exactly.
or
That's what I'm saying.
Or agility, need something to do that.
Right. So it's not out of the question that he could beat Gil. It's definitely in the question, basically.
If I remember correctly, the fight stopped because Gil stopped it, because he just literally fell on his back and started laughing.
Described it a couple of times, but the ultimate result is that it's a draw because they don't want to go on anymore.
Right. So with that said, speaking of Strange Fake, though, there's definitely someone who.
All right. So I'm gonna stop this right here.
Gil actually shit his pants, and it's a blast from his past. Funny enough, but in a different form.
Let me see who's next.
It is Archer Heracles.
Okay. So next time they're gonna be talking about Heracles. I know you guys have been telling me they got some stuff wrong. I'm excited to see it though, just because I want to see if I'm able to tell what they got wrong. But listen, so in my opinion, I think Enkidu is better than Gilgamesh. I won't say way better, but she is better, or he is better than Gilgamesh in my opinion, and this is why, right? So as they mentioned, so basically, when you fight Gil, the first question that you gotta ask is, can they defend or counter Enuma Elish? And for Enkidu, the answer is yes. He has his own version of Enuma Elish. And then, can you counter the Gate of Babylon? Having weapons fired at you at Mach 10, can you counter that? Are you fast enough? And not only does Enkidu have the ability to switch his stats, meaning he could get his agility to an A++, in which he could probably dodge and evade most of the Gate of Babylon's attack. Plus, he has the ability to counter the Gate of Babylon weapon for weapon, right? So it basically becomes a battle of attrition, right? And at the end, Gil at some point is gonna run out of treasures to throw at him. At some point, he has to run out of treasures, right? So, okay, so now we're at a point where Gil has run out of treasures, and they're both tired. They're both exhausted. It pretty much becomes a fist fight or a sword fight or whatever. It becomes a fist fight. Let's say, because Gil's out of treasures, he has nothing left to throw, and Enkidu, technically, if they're in the right place, technically Enkidu should be able to make more weapons than Gil has in his vault. But let's say they're both exhausted, because I remember that in the fight that they fought, it said that Enkidu used 90% of his clay. But if you remember correctly, right, Gil was tired on his back. Does that mean that he stopped the fight because he was tired, or he thought like, okay, let's call it a draw? Did Gil quit? I don't know. But the thing is, so if they hated each other, right, and they wanted to keep on fighting no matter what, well, Enkidu has the ability to become physically stronger than Gil faster with more endurance. Like, he can technically switch up all his stats. So at that point where they're at the point where none of them have weapons, they're pretty much at the end, it's just gonna become a fist fight. And we've never seen Gil push to that point, but you gotta think about it, natural progression. Sure, they're gonna start out using strong attacks, Gil shooting weapons, Enkidu countering, whatever. But at the end, when they're both out of options, they're both exhausted, well, then Enkidu obviously has the advantage because he can technically become stronger, faster, and with more endurance than Gil by reducing the rest of his stats. So basically, he can reduce mana, luck, and what's the other one? Well, let's say he can reduce his mana and luck to become faster and stronger than Gil. You know? So that's why I think he's better, in my opinion. Granted, they did tied, apparently, supposedly, but I think if it was a fight to the death and they had to keep on fighting, Enkidu would have won. That's just my opinion. And my favorite aspect about Enkidu is that the fact that he can change his skills, appearance as well. Like, the fact that he can do that, change size, weight, like, I think it gives him the definite edge at the end of the fight. Because remember, Enkidu can counter Inumite Leash, can counter the Gate of Babylon blow for blow. Well, what's left? What's left is physical skills, and Enkidu can make himself way more physically powered than Gilgamesh. So now it's just speculation because we've never seen them fight all out. Maybe in Strange Fake, maybe that'll happen, I'm not sure. But yeah, in my opinion, I think Enkidu is better than Gil in that regard. So yeah, but that's pretty much it for today. It was a nice video. I really enjoyed it. Next time they're going to be talking about Heracles. I know they got some stuff wrong, but I'm curious still to see what they say. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. I'm currently looking to reach 400 subs, so if you could please help me out with that, I really appreciate it. So thank you so much, and as I always say, have a nice day and catch you guys in the next one.